Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation, maybe at a dinner party or a really high-stakes meeting at work,
Mm.
and you just sort of detach?
Mhm.
You're still there. You're nodding, you're smiling, you're saying all the right things, but physically, you feel this heavy, almost suffocating weight in your chest.
The exhaustion of wearing the mask.
It's more than just being tired, though, isn't it? It's this specific, this visceral realization that you're performing.
Right. You're not living.
You're auditioning, you're playing a character,
Yeah.
the reliable employee or the chill partner, the high achiever, but you never actually signed up for the role.
And the really scary part is that feeling of being a fraud.
Yes, that's it. You feel like if anyone could just see what was happening behind your eyes, the whole charade would just collapse.
And that feeling, that's what a lot of the clinical literature calls imposter syndrome. But I think that term is, I don't know, it's almost too neat. It sanitizes it. What you're describing is a kind of spiritual and psychological friction. It's the sound of gears grinding because the engine inside you doesn't match the car you're pretending to drive.
And that friction, that grinding, that is our subject today. We're going to pull apart the mechanics of why we wear those masks and, maybe more importantly, how to take them off without, blowing up our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We are back with Florence Scovel Shinn's 1925 classic, The Game of Life and How to Play It. And today is a special one, I think, because we're really isolating Episode 10, Perfect Self-Expression.
This is, I would argue, the most practical chapter in the entire book. Shinn kind of moves away from the general metaphysics here.
Right.
And she gets into what is essentially career counseling. She's saying that this feeling of being an imposter, it's not just a minor annoyance, it's a signal.
A check engine light.
Exactly. It's a light telling you that you're violating your primary function.
So the mission for this discussion is to decode Shinn's strategy for finding what she calls the divine design. We've got her original text, of course, but we've also stacked it against some Stoic philosophy and even some modern research on burnout and motivation.
Just to see if her advice from the 1920s still holds up.
And does it?
Spoiler alert. It absolutely does. But we have to translate it. Shinn uses very flowery, almost biblical language.
Infinite spirit, divine design.
All of that. Our job is to strip that down to the mechanics, the psychology, the integrity. We're not talking about magic today. We're talking about alignment.
Okay. Before we really get into the how, just a quick note for everyone listening, whether you're new or you've been with us for a while. If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one.
Yeah, it really does help us keep the research stack growing.
Okay, let's get into the weeds. Section 1, the core concept. Shinn throws this phrase around constantly, the divine design. When I first read that, my skeptical brain, it immediately went to destiny. It just sounds so fatalistic. Like there's a script written in the stars and I'm just a puppet.
That is the most common misinterpretation. It's a huge one.
So that's not what she's arguing?
Not at all. People hear design and they immediately think fate. But if you look at the text really closely, especially in the chapter leading into this one, she's not talking about some predetermined script where you have no free will.
Okay.
She's talking about utility. She's talking about function. She writes, "There is for each man perfect self-expression." Then she drops the hammer.
What does she say?
"There is a place which he is to fill and no one else can fill, something which he is to do which no one else can do."
Which no one else can do. That's a massive claim. Statistically, that just feels improbable. There are billions of people on the planet. You're telling me only I can do my specific thing?
Well, think of it less about the task itself and more about the method. Sure, millions of people can, write code. Millions of people can bake bread. But the specific combination of your temperament, your life experiences, your unique voice, your natural aptitude, all of that creates a unique fingerprint of output.
I see.
So if you suppress that to try and code exactly like Steve Jobs or, bake exactly like Martha Stewart, you fail.
Yeah.
And not because you're bad at it.
But because you're optimizing for someone else's build.
You're optimizing for someone else's build.
Yes.
It's not your design.
It's like using a specialized tool for the wrong job. You can hammer a nail with a wrench, but it's going to be ugly.
And you're going to ruin the wrench in the process.
Right.
That is a perfect analogy. Shinn is essentially asking, what kind of tool are you? Because if you're a wrench acting like a hammer because you think hammers are cool or successful, you're going to break.
And that's the burnout. That's the friction we were talking about.
That's the friction.
So if we strip the woo out of her phrase, perfect self-expression, what are the actual components? Plain English.
Okay. In plain English, we sort of identified 4 pillars. First is honest gifts, what you are naturally, effortlessly good at, not what you wish you were good at.
That's a hard one.
It is. Second is honest voice, how you actually communicate, not how you think you should. Third, honest, work the medium, the actual activity you enjoy. And fourth, aligned action.
Shinn has this visual for it, right? The square of life.
She does. She frames happiness as this structure that's resting on four corners: health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression.
Okay.
But here's the critical insight that is so easy to miss. She suggests that self-expression, it's the lead domino.
Meaning if you fix the expression, the others just kind of fall into place.
Correct. And maybe more importantly, if you block the expression, the other three crumble.
That makes sense.
Think about it biologically. If you spend 40 hours a week suppressing your natural personality just to survive a corporate job you hate, what happens to your health?
Your cortisol spikes.
Yeah.
You get sick all the time.
Inflammation, exactly. And what happens to your relationships? You come home completely drained, you're irritable, you've got nothing left for love. The blockage in that one corner poisons the whole well.
So that brings us to the inverse of all this.
Yeah.
If the divine design is the goal, what's the enemy? And Shinn is really clear on this. She identifies it as imitation.
Imitation is the killer.
Yeah.
And this is where Shinn, high fives the Stoics across the centuries. We found this great connection to Marcus Aurelius in the notes.
Oh, yeah.
The Stoics had this concept of the pathetic dabbler.
I love that insult. It sounds so old-fashioned. You pathetic dabbler.
It cuts deep because it's so true. A dabbler is someone who just won't commit to their own nature. They look at a successful athlete and think, okay, I'll do that.
Right.
Then they see a rich crypto trader and they think, no, wait, I'll do that. They're just trying on other people's lives like their costumes.
And Shinn warns that forcing a mental picture, trying to force yourself into a life that isn't yours, it always ends in failure.
Always. And we actually have modern data on this in the psychology stack. It's the difference between what researchers call controlled motivation and autonomous motivation.
Okay, break that down first.
Controlled motivation is when you act because of external pressure, shame, guilt, maybe the promise of a reward or fear of punishment. I'm going to law school because my dad expects me to.
That's controlled.
Totally controlled. And the energy cost is massive. You're constantly pushing a boulder uphill.
And autonomous motivation?
That's when the drive is internal. You do it because you genuinely value it or because you actually enjoy the activity itself. That is the divine design.
It's renewable energy.
It's renewable energy. The research shows you just don't burn out the same way. Shinn calls it perfect self-expression. Psychologists call it intrinsic alignment. It's the same mechanism.
Okay, so we know imitation is bad. We know it drains our battery, it makes us miserable. So why do we do it? Why is it so incredibly hard to just be ourselves?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like the easiest thing in the world, but most of us would rather do anything than be truly authentic in a high-stakes room.
And that takes us right into section 2, the blocks. And the biggest one, the one Shinn points a finger at immediately, is fear.
But it's not just a general fear, is it? It's a specific fear of our own capacity.
Right. Shinn tells this fascinating story about a woman who was a naturally brilliant actress. She had the divine design to be on stage. It was her honest gift.
Right.
But she had this crippling stage fright. And what's interesting is how her body manifested that fear physically. She developed a severe skin condition that would flare up right before a performance.
Wow, so her body was literally screaming no.
Her subconscious was trying to protect her. The subconscious mind decided the stage was a threat, so it created a physical ailment to keep her off the stage.
A misguided defense mechanism.
Totally misguided. Shinn worked with her on what she calls non-resistance, essentially teaching her to stop fighting the fear and stop fighting the idea of the audience. And once that internal resistance dropped,
The skin condition went away.
it just vanished.
That's a wild story, but it really illustrates the point. The talent was there, the design was there all along, but the fear acted like a dam.
It did. And in the modern world, I think the biggest generator of that specific fear is comparison. This is the second block.
And social media has just weaponized this, hasn't it?
Completely. When you're scrolling through Instagram or LinkedIn, you are seeing someone else's highlight reel. You're seeing their divine design fully actualized, or at least how they present it.
And the mistake we make is thinking, I need to do that to be valuable.
Yes. And Shinn is pretty harsh on this. She basically implies that if you copy, you are negating your own existence.
You're telling the universe or your subconscious mind that it made a mistake with you.
My design is bad. Their design is good. It's a complete rejection of the self. And as Shinn notes, Nobody buys a knockoff if they can get the original. If you try to be a second-rate Elon Musk, you're going to fail. But if you become a first-rate,
There's no competition.
there is no competition because nobody else is offering that.
There's another layer to this fear, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just wanting to be successful like someone else. It's the fear of being judged for who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
I think Epictetus had a line about this. It is not to be found in the regard of other people.
Which is, easy for a Stoic philosopher to say.
Right.
But it's hard for us. We're social primates. We are terrified of being kicked out of the tribe. If my divine design is to be a poet, but my tribe, my family, my company values investment banking,
Then asserting your design feels like a death sentence.
it feels like a threat to your survival. So what do?
You play the role. You put on the mask to stay safe in the tribe.
Exactly. But the cost is that energy drain we talked about before. You're spending, say, 80% of your mental processing power just rendering the mask. You have no bandwidth left over to actually be a genius.
Shinn gives a really, really creepy example of this role-playing that I want to unpack. The story of the widow.
Oh, this one gave me chills. It's such a stark warning about the plasticity of our subconscious minds. Shinn describes a woman who, as a young child, loved to play the widow.
What does that even mean?
She would dress up in black clothes, she'd put on a veil, and she would just walk around the house acting all solemn and tragic. She thought it was romantic and dramatic.
So she was glamorizing the tragedy.
She was rehearsing it. Shinn says she impressed that image of the tragic widow so deeply onto her subconscious. So she grows up, she marries a man she loves deeply, and then he dies young.
Oh, no.
And she spent years wearing black and a veil. Shinn's argument is that she essentially manifested the very role she had been practicing for decades.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
It implies that our play, our daydreams, are not innocent.
It implies that we become what we rehearse. If you go to work every day and you rehearse the role of the overworked, underappreciated martyr, sighing loudly, sending emails at midnight to prove how hard you're working,
Eventually, you just are that person.
you are that person. You built the cage, you walked into it, and you locked the door behind you.
So we have to be incredibly careful about the character we're pretending to be.
Because eventually the mask eats the face. There's just no difference between the performance and the reality anymore.
I want to pivot here because when we talk about self-expression and divine design, a certain type of listener might roll their eyes and say, this just sounds like narcissism.
Mm-hmm. It's all about me and my special genius.
Exactly. But Section 3 of our stack argues the complete opposite. Expression is not ego.
This is a vital distinction to make. Shinn is not talking about vanity here. She's not saying, go be famous. She is talking about function. True expression is actually an act of service.
This goes back to Aristotle's concept of ergon, doesn't it?
Yes, ergon, which basically means work or function. Aristotle argued that a good knife is one that cuts well. That's its ergon. A knife with a diamond-encrusted handle that's dull is a bad knife.
That's a failure.
It's a failure. It might be expensive, but it lacks integrity because it can't do its job.
So if I'm a knife, let's say my function is to analyze data, but I spent all my time trying to be a spoon, let's say trying to be a charismatic sales leader.
You're failing, not because you're a bad person, but because you're a really useless spoon.
And the world needs knives.
The world needs knives. If you're a knife pretending to be a spoon, you're depriving the world of your unique cutting ability. Shinn would argue that your divine design is the place where you are most useful to the collective. It's humility, not arrogance, to say, I'm good at this, so I will do this.
It requires a brutal honesty, though. You have to admit you're not a spoon. You have to admit you might never be that charismatic leader.
And that's the relief. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You just have to be the thing you are.
Okay, so let's assume someone listening is bought in. They want to drop the mask. They want to find their ergon. How? Section 4 is the method. And Shinn is very prescriptive here. She doesn't just say, oh, think about it. She has a technique.
She calls it the definite demand. Shinn believes that the spoken word creates a vibration, a kind of instruction that impresses the subconscious mind. You have to give the order.
So what's the script? What do you say?
She suggests saying something like, Infinite Spirit, open the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released. Let me see clearly the perfect plan.
Let the genius within me now be released. I like that phrasing. It implies the genius is already in there.
Just
A
trap.
trap behind the wall of fear and imitation.
It's an excavation project, not a construction project.
Yeah.
But here's the catch, and this is where everyone messes it up. Shinn warns, do not visualize the specific job title.
Wait, really? But all modern self-help is about manifestation boards, where you pin a picture of the exact corner office you want. Shinn says don't do that.
She says absolutely not. And her reasoning, I think, is really sound. She argues that your conscious mind, your intellect is limited. It only knows what it has seen before.
Okay.
So if you ask specifically to be vice president of marketing at company X, you might be aiming way too low. Or worse, you might be aiming for a job that would actually make you miserable.
So by visualizing the specific outcome, we're actually putting a ceiling on the potential.
You're micromanaging the universe. Shinn says, ask for the design, not the job. Visualize the feeling of the perfect fit. Visualize the sensation of using your talents fully and being, well compensated for it. But let the infinite spirit or the superconscious fill in the details of how that happens.
Okay, so we say the prayer, we make the demand. Then what? Do we just sit on the couch and wait for the phone to ring?
No, this is the active part. After you ask, you have to follow the leads.
Intuition.
Intuition, hunches, those little nudges. Shinn says that once you make the demand, the cosmic machine starts turning. You'll get these sudden impulses to do things that might not make any logical sense.
Can you give me an example of a lead?
Yeah, there's a story in the book about a woman asking for her right work and for financial supply. She had very little money left, so logic would dictate she should hoard every penny, right?
Right. Eat ramen, stay home.
Exactly. But she got a sudden, really strong hunch to give a gift of $100 to a spiritual teacher who helped her in the past.
That sounds financially irresponsible.
Logically, absolutely. But intuitively, it was the key. She fought against the logic and she followed the hunch. She gave the money. And shortly after, a massive channel of supply opened up in her life, a new opportunity she never would have seen otherwise.
So what's the mechanic there? Is it magic? Or is it psychological?
I think it's about signaling.
No.
Fear hoards, faith flows. By giving the money away, she broke the paralysis of her fear. She was signaling to her own subconscious, I'm safe, I'm abundant.
And that shift in state.
That shift allowed her to see and seize the opportunity that came next. If she had stayed in hoarding mode, she might have been too fearful to even take the risk on the new job.
So the lead is often a test. It asks you to act in alignment with the person you want to be, not the person you were.
Exactly. You have to act the part before you get the role.
Let's try and ground this. Section 5. We've got 3 practical examples of what this looks like on a Tuesday. Because divine design sounds so lofty, but we all have bills to pay. Let's start with work.
Okay, the scenario here is the classic prestige versus fit. Let's say you're a lawyer. You make $200,000 a year. Your parents are thrilled. But you absolutely dread Monday morning.
You hate the conflict, the details bore you to tears.
Right. But you secretly love organizing spaces. You get a thrill out of design and making things orderly.
But the internal monologue is saying, I can't be a closet organizer. I went to law school. I'm a professional.
That voice is the ego. That's the mask. Shinn would say your divine design is likely in the world of order and aesthetics. And she gives us a metric to know if we're on the right track.
And what's that?
She says perfect self-expression will never be labor, but of such absorbing interest that it will seem almost like play.
It's flow state.
Total flow state. If your current job feels like a prison sentence, you are violating the design. The goal is to find the work that feels like absorbing play.
Okay, example number 2. Relationships. How does divine design apply to our love lives or friendships?
This goes right back to the idea of the honest voice. The trap here is the nice guy or nice girl syndrome. It's people-pleasing.
You suppress your actual needs and opinions just to keep the peace.
You become a mirror. You're just reflecting what you think the other person wants to see.
And you think you're being a good partner, but really you're just being a non-entity.
You're deceiving them. Shinn would argue that authentic expression means showing up as your whole self, sharp edges and all. It means saying, actually, I don't like that, or this is what I need.
Because if you're hiding,
the other person isn't in a relationship with you. They're in a relationship with your mask. And a mask cannot be loved.
Wow, that is hard. A mask cannot be loved. You have to risk being seen to be loved.
That's the whole game.
Okay, example number 3. Habits. This is where I think a lot of us struggle.
This is all about input versus output. We all have downtime. The question is, does your downtime support your design? If you tell yourself you want to be a writer, but you spend 4 hours a night doom scrolling TikTok, you're sending a very mixed signal.
It's passive consumption versus active preparation.
And Shinnon is huge on preparation. She says if you ask for the divine design to manifest, you have to prepare for it. You have to dig the ditches. If you believe you're a writer, then write.
Even if no one is reading it yet.
Even then, if you believe you're a chef, then cook. Turn your downtime from a consumption zone into a dojo for your design.
Okay, I want to get really tactical now. We've prepped a sort of guided exercise in Section 6. We're calling it the expression reset. So if you're listening, you can do this mentally right now, or you can pause and write it down. 7 steps.
Let's run through them. Step first. Name the friction. Just identify where you feel forced or fake. Is it your job? Is it that one friendship that drains you? Where does the mask feel the tightest?
Step second. Identify the gift. What is one thing you do naturally without even thinking? Are you the person everyone calls for advice? Are you the one who just intuitively organizes the spreadsheets? What's effortless for you?
Step third. The anchor. Identify one core value you refuse to betray anymore.
What do you mean by that?
This is your North Star. Is it truth? Is it kindness? Maybe it's efficiency. Pick one. If your core value is efficiency, but your job is drowning in red tape, that's your conflict right there.
Got it. Step fourth. Small action.
Do one tiny thing today that is the real you. Write one line of the poem. Send the honest email. Wear the outfit you actually love but think is too much. Just one pulse of authenticity.
Step fifth. Remove a contradiction.
So stop doing one thing that makes you feel like a fraud. Unfollow the social media account that makes you feel small. Stop saying yes to those coffee meetings you absolutely do not want to attend.
Number 6 is the statement.
Say the demand out loud. I am fully equipped for the divine plan of my life. You have to claim it.
And finally, step 7th, the proof.
Take one physical step that proves you're serious. Sign up for the class. Buy the domain name for the business idea. Do something that proves to your subconscious that you're not just daydreaming.
I love that list. It feels very actionable. But before we wrap, we have to cover the pitfalls. Section 7, common mistakes. Because even with a perfect list, we will self-sabotage. What's mistake number 1?
Forcing the outline. We touched on this already. It's insisting that your divine design must look like a specific job or a specific title you saw somewhere else.
And the fix for that?
Surrender the how. Just let it go. Ask for the essence, not the package. Be open to the idea that your perfect job might be something that hasn't even been invented yet.
Okay, mistake number 2, fear the void. This is a big one for me.
Shinn calls this the cyclone. When you start moving toward your truth, your old false life might start to collapse. You might get fired. A relationship might end. And that creates a void.
And we panic. We try to grab the rubble and glue it all back together.
Don't. The fix is to trust the vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you create space by letting go of what's false, something better must rush in to fill it. Just don't panic in the hallway between the doors.
Mistake number 3, ignoring the leads.
This is when you rationalize away your intuition. You think, oh, I shouldn't call that person. It's been way too long. It would be awkward.
So what's the fix?
If the thought, the hunch, comes to you 3 times, just act on it. Treat it like a direct order from headquarters.
Mistake number 4, speaking failure.
You cannot pray for success in the morning and then go gossip about your failures at lunch. Oh, I'm so broke, nothing ever works out for me.
You're canceling your own order.
You're canceling your own order. The fix is discipline. Watch your mouth. Only speak what you want to see manifest.
And the last one, mistake number 5, impatience.
Digging up the seeds. You plant the seed of your intention today, and then tomorrow morning you dig it up to see if it has roots yet.
It kills the plant.
It kills the plant. You have to trust the season, trust the process.
This has been a heavy lift, but a really necessary one. Let's do a quick recap in Section 8 just to lock this into the brain.
7 key takeaways.
You have a specific function, a divine design that only you can fill.
Imitation is a violation of this design. It makes you, in the Stoics' words, a pathetic dabbler.
Fear and people-pleasing are the main blocks. They drain the energy you need for your real work.
4th, true expression feels like play. It
Right.
generates energy, it doesn't consume it.
To activate it, stop visualizing the specific job title and start asking for the design.
Follow the hunches. Your intuition is the GPS.
Prepare. Act as if the role is already yours.
It all really comes down to trust, doesn't it? Trusting that the person you actually are underneath all the masks is enough.
That you don't need the mask.
And that is probably the hardest, bravest thing a human being can possibly do. To just stand naked in the world and say, this is what I am.
Before we sign off, I just want to leave you with one final thought.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about how this design can bring you wealth and health, but I think the real prize is peace, the silence of that internal war. When the mask finally comes off, the war ends.
The peace of just fitting, of being in the right place.
Exactly. Next time, we're going even deeper into this. We're tackling Episode 11, Denials. This is the cleanup crew. How to wipe the slate clean of all the negative beliefs we've built up over the years.
It's the perfect follow-up. First, you find the true path, then you clear all the debris off of it.
Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist, and please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.